Hi, I'm Amy Satori, a twin flame and intuitive spiritual counselor assisting in raising the vibration of our planet. I'm able to scan your energy field for emotional blockages and talk to your organs using Qigong energy healing. I can also help you make decisions, talk to your pets, deceased loved ones, and your friends or family's higher selves. I can help you navigate your relationships and answer pressing questions in your life by talking with the unseen world. I am not a doctor, psychologist, or fortune teller. This is for entertainment purposes only. Having also been enlightened for 6 months years ago, I have a feel for oneness with God, and use these skills I've developed through the years to translate the images, feelings, impressions, and messages I'm given while tuning into you and your situation. You can ask me anything by calling 256-291-1191 any Sunday starting at 6:30 Mountain Time. Follow me at thesatorishow.podbean.com, find me on Instagram, or you can order a personal reading at www.amysatori.com today. Sit back and enjoy this episode of The Satori Show.
And welcome to The Satori Show, everyone. This is Amy Satori, your host today, and you may have noticed a little change in the intro, as well as this greeting being by myself, where it's usually Kevin McDonald, our wonderful executive producer. He has gone on to assist his family with a crisis at this time. So I have resumed both of our roles in the show today. So I have some things in store for us, and it looks like it's just you and me this evening. So glad you're listening. Thank you so much for being here. Also, this little change that has happened under the full moon, and full moons are all about letting go of what no longer serves you. And what was kind of ironic was that it happened to be the 73rd show, which 7 and 3 actually equals 10, which is the end of something and the beginning of something new. And crazy enough, I had just pulled a card a couple days prior to this happening saying positive changes are coming. So I take this to be a very good sign, and I'm nervous doing this by myself, so bear with me, but here we are. I also I looked up what the number 10 in the tarot is because I don't have them memorized, but the numbers anyway. And here's what it says. This is pretty cool. Good luck, karma, life cycles, destiny, a turning point. The Wheel of Fortune is about keeping optimistic and having faith in the universe that it will take care of the situation in the best way possible. It can assist and reinforce your intention to bring increased abundance, good fortune, and prosperity into your life. This archetype allows your life to turn in more positive directions if you are willing to grow and expand. This is also a lucky time in life when you are sensing the action of fate and destiny working in your favor. You may even be witnessing miracles or a very fortunate series of events. The Wheel of Fortune speaks of a pivotal point in your life where new options become available and possible. The appearance of the Wheel of Fortune shows that change is not only likely to happen, it is certain to happen, and soon. Generally, the change shown in the Wheel of Fortune is a dramatic change from the established order. That's funny. These changes are distinctly personal and may require making a first step on a new and unfamiliar path. You may also need to alter your present course, move things in a different direction, or turn things around to ensure that you are creating the right outcomes in your life. Great affirmation for the Wheel of Fortune is through all the changes that the universe brings, I feel the center of stability which is within me. So true. Anyway, I want to wish Kevin good luck with dealing with all these family matters, and members for that matter, especially the newest one. And thank you so much for all the help you've been to me so far on this journey. It's been a beautiful journey. You've been a beautiful friend, and I'll be definitely sending blessings on your way. And let's see here. I have an agenda today, and that is to show you guys kind of my life in a nutshell and help you kind of get to know me, what I'm doing on here, why I'm on here, where I even have my experience, maybe some of these things that I've been through, will really resonate with you and help you to feel like you're not the only one who's been through these types of things. And so I will be sharing some life experiences with you in just a moment, but I wanted to address some of the comments and questions from the 1111 Twin Flame Forum. And that is a Facebook group I made up to help twin flames on their journey. I know I needed a lot of help when I began this, so I'm providing that for you guys. Also, I'm going to provide links below in the description to the Twin Flame Forum if you'd like to join. And keep in mind also that at the, when the show is over, I'm going to also add in the description episodes that go further into detail about the things that I'll be talking about a little bit later. So, Jackie had a question, and she said, well, actually, it doesn't look like a question. Let me just see. It might be just a sharing. She said, here's my story. I met my twin flame 3.5 years ago in our kids' Taekwondo class. Both of us married to other people. He and his son came to my daughter's birthday party. Then we fell out of touch. Fast forward 1.5 years, I'm going through a nasty divorce, and I stumble upon his Facebook page. We start communicating and become so close, obviously meant to be in each other's lives. Not a day goes by that we don't talk or text or communicate on some ethereal level. We live in different states now, but the connection will always be there. He's the one person who understands me most and truly appreciates me for me. That is such a common theme with these twin flames, is you really feel like you get each other on a deep level. There's just an automatic rapport that's there, and it's so neat to see all the different signs that you get from the universe as confirmation that you're on the right path. So congratulations, Jackie. That's super awesome, and don't worry about the distance thing, because distance doesn't really play a part. I've seen it so many different times where people live, so like in totally different countries and way across the world from each other, and it doesn't stop them at all. So I'm sure you guys will come together. In fact, let me just feel this out for a moment. Hang on. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think you're in for a surprise. Okay. I think there's some things that he's not telling you. I think he's planning something, and feels like when I went to tune into it, it was like a train came out of nowhere and just kind of struck you. So, yeah, better brace yourself. Okay, sorry for the background noise. I'm in kind of a noisy storage room at the moment, so you're going to be hearing some of that. Okay, Brianna. She asks, what are merging symptoms? I'm really out of touch with reality. It's not just normal. It all seems so much more heightened. I can feel my twin with me in dreams. He's actually there, not just communicating, but full soul energy. He's everywhere in synchronicities like crazy. Like yesterday, I went out with friends to go swimming, and he almost went, but was at work. He asked about me, and the entire day I felt his energy there with me, even when I fell asleep in the car. And then a strong energy woke me up at 1:44. I feel him I feel him watch me in my sleep and caress my face. Even his smell. I've been seeing our life path numbers and 144, 5s, and 22s everywhere. I feel some sort of calm denial. Like, is this really happening? So, yeah, we go through so many different stages. We have signs and synchronicities like this that happen all the time. We've got, if we start talking to their higher selves, we have all these neat experiences that happen on the 5D. Some twins are even like having some sexual experiences and getting married and all kinds of things in the other realm. When you pay attention to your dreams and what you're experiencing in your dreams, because that is going to give you some indicators as well, because it will show and reveal to you the fears that you still have left and show you the progress that's being made as well in the 5D that's kind of trickling down into the 3D. So if you used to have some issues, and I think actually somebody asked this in a minute, so But if you have some issues that you're still dealing with, they're going to arrive in your dreams to kind of point those things out to you for something to work on. So just keep that in mind. I've worked out all kinds of issues with my twin in my dreams, and the last dream I had was actually very awesome. So I think we are doing very well. Let's see. Also, some things that we experience along this path are fear of what if they're not my twin, and fear of what if they are. It's like, am I worthy of this? Am I good enough? And also, it's really, really scary on both parts to get into a relationship like this, because it's nothing you've ever experienced before. And you're thinking, if it's not this person, who the heck else could it possibly be? Because this is the most miraculous and magical thing I've ever seen in my life. So it's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of questioning whether you're ready. Everybody almost feels like they have to be kind of perfect to come into it, which is not true. We're going to still have issues when we come into this, and we're going to help each other heal. But sometimes if those fears are gripping you and keeping you from it depends, because you're going to have these fears. But if the fears are too big, and if they are literally really scaring you and your heart's pounding like crazy, not just some little insecurity in the back of your mind, but you're willing to walk forward. But if it's actually gripping you and paralyzing you, then that is definitely a blockage to you guys coming together in union. So I kind of wrote down some things, that kind of stages that you go through, and this is just what I've been through, and what I've witnessed has been something that all the other twins I'm working with have also been through. So let me walk you through that real quick to give you an idea, or help you to see where you might be on that path. First, you go through a feeling of surprise, maybe even shock, that you've met somebody that makes you feel this way, or that makes you look at things differently. And it's surprising that, how they can evoke trust, and they can get you to say just about anything. You'll just open your heart wide to them. Then you go through skepticism. You're like, no, that really wasn't what it was. It must not have been. You just go through all this. Yeah, I don't know about this. Maybe I'm just making it out to be something more special than it was. And then you start gathering proof and doing some research on twin flames, trying to figure out what is this? What's happened to me? Why does this, how come nobody understands this? Why are all my friends saying you're wasting your time? What are you doing? I don't like how he's treating you, or she's treating you, or, all of that stuff you go through, trying to figure out what the heck you're going through. And then you go through doubt or denial. The masculine usually goes through the denial part, and the feminine usually goes through all the doubt. And that can come up in many different ways. It can just be doubting it in general, and then it's like it would feel like you're kind of going crazy because you go back and forth and back and forth. And this could include ordering readings on a regular basis, and even though the reader says, yes, this is your twin flame, you still doubt it. And every time you see proof, you're all excited and like, oh my gosh, I got to write this down. This is unbelievable. And you make a really big deal of it. And then, and of course, you're always going to do that if it's something exceptional. But you'll go through all of this, and then you'll start transforming. Then you get serious, and you're like, okay, if this is my twin flame, I got to start doing some work. Then you start working on yourself. You start loving yourself. You start accepting yourself. You start making changes with your family and with your friends, how they treat you, what you'll put up with. Start asserting boundaries with people more than ever. It's like you get inspired to kind of get ready for this person to come into your life. Then you experience more and more peace within. You start making healthier choices in your life, and you start getting more passionate about your purpose and what you're here to do. And then you get to a stage where it's not really important anymore. I know that's hard to even fathom, but you get to where the twin is no longer like your priority. It's not in the forefront of your thoughts. He's or she's always going to be there. You're going to think about them pretty much, any spare chance you have. but that's just kind of how it's made by design. But you definitely start to almost forget in between. So, and that's a very healthy sign. And if you're generally content and you're not too worried about it, you just know that it's going to happen, and you're just kind of in the flow with it. Maybe even willing to date a soulmate for a little bit, being totally honest with that person about where you're at. All of that is a healthy sign that you're kind of ready for a new stage in life, that you trust the journey, you trust that this is your twin flame, you feel certain, and you're just going to trust that the universe is going to deliver this love to you when it's time, and not try to push it, not try to force that to happen. So hope that helps you feel more secure about what you're going through. Okay, and then we have somebody sharing their story. This is Nicole. I haven't been on this journey very long, but it's been interesting, of course. My twin flame and I have not met in person. We're about a 5-hour drive apart, separated by the U.S.-Canada border. On top of that, I'm married and he's engaged. Oh, our meeting was completely random. In any case, our connection was quick and quickly became intense. I had many, many synchronicities. One so assertive I thought I would pass out. I asked for a sign in church and pulled a Canadian nickel out of my wallet for count offering. Wow. My twin agreed that what he had was different, that what we had was different, that we were meant to meet, and we even discussed past lives. Wow, that's a deep conversation to be having already. I had so many intense physical responses with our conversations and in other areas of my life that my research led me to twin flames, like I said, an awakening and chakras. We have had a few times where we didn't talk for a few days, but about 2 weeks ago I realized I needed a break in communication to recenter myself and get back on my journey. He really didn't take it well, and I thought either we were never talking again or not for a very long time. It was definitely needed. I really found direction again. Finally, I ended up emailing him my thoughts on twin flames and all that I thought was going on. He did email a short hello and unblocked me. The next day we spoke all day. We didn't hash out the twin flame discussion, but he admitted that when he had finished reading the email, he walked outside and there was a parked car with Pennsylvania license plates. Oh my gosh, this is the kind of thing that happens to all of us all the time. I can't tell you how many times I accidentally park in back of a car that has my twin's state license plates as well. And sometimes as you guys sure know as well, is sometimes you just outright laugh at some of the things. It's like, this is preposterous. There's no way this is ridiculous. This is getting ridiculous. Those types of things, like I was keeping a diary for a really long time, and I stopped for a while because I was like, okay, I am so used to these synchronicities now. They happen so often and so much that I'm not even going to bother writing it down anymore unless it's a really big deal. So I've gotten to where I write something down every once in a while because it pretty much, shocked me. So yeah, and you can't lose that connection no matter what happens. So don't worry. Some people get worried that when something happens between them and their twin, they think, oh my gosh, I've ruined the whole thing. It's never going to come together now. But that's just not the case. I even had a time when I did something similar and sent my twin an email, and he did not take it well. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was shaking my head because I had gotten a reading and it said, you tell him how you feel about him a little too soon, and it kind of postpones things. So that's the worst thing that can happen, though, is a postponement. Of course, they say that there's free will in this journey, but honestly, it's like that magnetic attraction. How can you not be together? So, and on a soul level, before you even came here, you guys agreed to do this. So, I happen to believe that, most, if not all, twin flames are going to come together at this time. I think it's needed. Somebody mentioned me the other day, there have been such a long history of these twins not coming together. And that is true. But that's history, and history is the main word there. Back before the planet was ascending and going through these major shifts, we didn't necessarily need the twins to come together, and having many, many past lives where they weren't able to, like stories like Romeo and Juliet and things like that, we didn't really, but that it kind of, I hate to say it, but it was kind of like all those past lives were kind of foreplay. Like we were never able to get together. We had something really dramatic happen just before, which also, by the way, contributes to the worry of when you start to come real close to coming into union, you kind of freak out a little bit. You kind of like start doubting everything all over again real quick. It's a temporary little thing that everybody goes through, but part of that is that you're tapping into those past lives where it didn't work out, so you kind of freak out. So keep that in mind, that it may not be a legitimate fear or like a real reason to be concerned. It could be just past life stuff. Okay. And Lorelei. Going on 13 years in this twin flame experience, lol, unable to be together. In fact, I'm feeling as though I'm not supposed to be with my twin at all. We both have more maturing and growing to experience, trust me. I am with a soulmate who is helping me grow and heal, and I'm thinking I want my twin to also be with a soulmate for the same reason. I'm beginning to understand that this whole twin flame experience is about growing and learning about yourself. I'm learning so many lessons through being rejected. Rejected by the wrong people because I was not in true alignment with myself to allow the right people to come into my life. My lesson seems to be learning how to be true to myself, live my authentic self through love. Can anyone else relate on some level? I have just recently, within the last 2 years, absolutely confirmed that he's my twin. In all honesty, I wish someone else was my twin. Someone easier who doesn't have all these fears. So, Laura or Lorelei, I have kind of I agree with you. The whole thing is about self-love and growth. Yes, a soulmate can totally do that. However, and I've talked about this a few times, if you end up marrying a soulmate, what can happen is you or they end up, let's say you know your twin. Let's say your partner doesn't. You will probably, and I've seen this several times with those who've selected their soulmates, they will continuously think about their twin flame and continue to have dreams and experiences and things like that kind of torture them throughout their marriage. And that's no fun for you to go through, and that's also no fun for your soulmate to go through. And your soulmate's probably a pretty outstanding person and probably also has a twin flame out there. So they might meet their twin flame or realize who their twin flame is, and they'll have the same thing going on. One of our past episodes, we actually had that happen where somebody actually knew who their twin flame was. They were married to a soulmate, and then both of them were longing for their twin flame for years and years and years and years. And it was just, I encouraged her to finally just, whatever fears are holding you back, just get over them, get a divorce with this soulmate and be with your twin flames, because both of you want to. And her husband was cheating on her with his twin flame. So that's kind of depending on the situation, it's kind of torturous for all four people involved. So why would you get yourself into that? And it's even worse if it's a karmic, and you never know whether it's a soulmate or a karmic, unless, you have a lot of experience being able to decipher that. But, and you got to get to know them, I suppose, if you're just doing it on your own and you're not using your intuition. Otherwise, you could tell, because the soulmate is like very easy to get along with, very comfortable, and it's pretty easy. It's really easy. So, and a karmic partner is gonna be pretty fiery with you. They're gonna argue with you, and those ones are just gonna be a flat out lesson. So, I don't know about that, but no matter what, don't be afraid to make the wrong decision either, because you'll be corrected by the universe. That's just what happens. That's just the way that it works. As long as you're moving forward, don't get paralyzed. Don't get so afraid. Don't let your mind totally take over the controls. work through any obstacles and boundaries and just keep moving forward. You will be corrected on your course if you're going the wrong direction. Oh my gosh. So I was just telling somebody the other day that, I have some options, and my twin hasn't given me any indication of wanting to move forward or anything like that. And although I very, very much believe in it, a part of me is a little tempted to maybe have a relationship with a soulmate or something like that, so I can have a really fun summer and do some things and have a good time. And you guys know how protective I am of my twin flame relationship. So, and I don't want to hurt him, and I don't want him to hurt me. And so there's always this very fine line to getting involved with somebody. And like I've said before, it's best if you don't have sex, and it's best if you can keep them at least at a distance, somewhat knowing that you are ultimately going to be with your twin flame. But I was telling some friends of mine about this little bit of a dilemma, and I said, I'm not too worried about it, because if I ever go off course a little bit, something really miraculous or incredible happens that totally corrects my course. Like, for example, when I started seeing that guy in December, like around the holidays, he wants to be alone for the holidays. So I started dating somebody, and he started to develop feelings, and it kind of put me in a pickle. It was a very uncomfortable situation toward the end. But what happened was, this girl comes from Denver, rides a bus to come down to where I work. She comes down to the bottom of the stairs, and she says to me, "Can I talk to you for a minute? I have a message for you from Jesus." Who would say no to that? I was like, what in the world? So, we step aside, and I said, "Yes, what's your message?" She said, you know the one who's meant for you, and you've got another guy." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "You need to get rid of the other guy." And I said, okay, I kind of knew that. I kind of felt that was coming. And she said, "Okay, well, that's it. I think that's all he had to say." And she turns around and goes all the way back to Denver. I thought, wow, the universe will go out of its way to send me a message. And then also with this whole thing that happened with Kevin, I thought, well, so is everything else like still on track? Is everything still gonna happen that has been predicted? And one of those things was the TV show that's supposed to happen sometime. And so I was just wondering, what does this all mean? And of course, I went through all kinds of insecurities and fears around the whole thing. And I was just pondering all of this. And the very next day, I have a client come into me, and she sits down for a reading. This is the next day after Kevin told me his news. This client sits down in front of me, and she says, "Your twin, does he have this hair color?" And I said, "Yes, he does." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, my sister had a dream about you guys." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, let me call her and get her on speakerphone right now." So this girl had a dream that I had shown her two pictures. One of them was my twin flame, and the other was my soulmate. And she described what they both looked like. And then she said that I had married my twin flame. And then she said that she talked to this other gal who had walked up, and the other gal said to her, "How do you know Amy Satori?" And the gal said, "Well, back in the day when she had her TV show, I was watching it, and that's when I met her." And so she said, in other words, you and your twin had been married, the whole time you guys had the TV show, or that you had the TV show, and you were still married, years later after the show was over. And I had to laugh. I was like, I cannot believe this, because this girl had the dream 2 weeks ago, but her sister didn't come get the reading from me until it actually happened. Everything went down. Everything happened at that moment. And all three things were pressing on my mind, or I guess that's two things. So that's a perfect example about not worrying about whether you're on course or not. Just keep going forward and knowing that if it's important to the universe, it will, come through however it needs to come through. So just trust that. Okay, so Suzanne says, so yes, I do have a question for today's show if you're taking questions. Am I wrong about Sean being my twin flame? There has been someone that I've been spending the week with, and everything is just, it's so easy to trust him, and there's no drama. So, being that everything's so easy and no drama, I would suspect this is a soulmate for you. And if you want to go that direction, do it. One thing that's kind of cool about going with a soulmate is your energy starts to get freed up to put your attention on something else. Takes pressure off your twin. Your twin can do whatever they want. And you have, you're keeping your vibration high, you're happy, you're having a good time. All those things are really great. You just have to be careful not to get too invested. And so you're going to have to figure out whether Sean's truly your twin. I mean, I can tell you what I feel intuitively about that, but ultimately it's going to come down to you and synchronicities and things. One of my other feminines ended up starting to date a soulmate, and I kind of gave her the whole spiel, warned her about doing that. She started, and they're I don't know if they're already engaged, but I know he bought a very expensive ring for her, and she's moving to the town where he lives, and they're pretty darn happy. I mean, I see them on Instagram all the time, and they just look incredibly happy. However, she's still asking me for updates on him, and she's having dreams, and she's feeling him energetically get sick to his stomach. So she knows by that he's definitely her twin flame, and she has not let him go, nor do I think she ever will be able to. So that's the kind of thing I think you're facing. But let me see if I can get some more information for you about him specifically for a moment, and we'll see what comes up. Hang on just a moment. Well, okay, so it feels like Sean definitely is doing a lot of thinking about you. A lot of thinking. Just because they're not in contact with you doesn't mean that you're not on their mind all the time. And so believe that, know that, have some faith. As you go a little further into the process and you start to have that unshakable faith about it, I would say my faith is like 100% right now. I absolutely know 100% that he is my twin. When you get to that point, you can kind of relax about it, and you can kind of trust it. And especially, like in my position, you see what happens when the twins come together too soon, and there's more conflict than there needs to be. There's still so many insecurities to work through and stuff, and they end up going into separation. I personally don't want to go into separation. Once I'm with him, I would just like it to go great. And obviously we're going to be, triggering each other and all kinds of things, but I would rather come into it with both of us feeling, yes, we're going to be scared, but feeling somewhat ready and willing to face it. And we know that we can validate without taking things personally, and all those things that I ended up talking about on episode 71. If you haven't heard it, that's a really good talk about how to prepare for being with your twin flame. So if you have done most of the things in that episode 71, I'd say you're ready, and just be patient, know that it's coming, and just go do whatever you can to get in a high vibe or stay in a high vibe state. Okay, so let's see if we have anything else here. And we don't. So what I'm going to do is start reading to you some bullet points of my life in a nutshell. Some of you will be rather surprised, shocked, or I don't know what you're gonna feel, but there's a lot here, and I've pretty much highlighted. Yeah, you'll see. Why do I have to prep you and all that? Okay. So here is my life. Here I am, vulnerable, naked, and all alone in the studio with no one. No call screener, no callers. I can't tell you how incredibly awkward I feel right now, you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. I died and was brought back to life when I was around 2. Some of you will say, well, that's where she got her psychic abilities. But no, because we all have psychic abilities. All you got to do is feel them. Just be curious and grow those abilities. We can all do it, you guys. It's part of our nature. So don't try to make me into anything special just because I died when I was 2. I'm just, giving you some history here. My mom had a stroke when I was about 3. So as if dying wasn't enough, here comes my mom with a stroke. And she was so paralyzed. It was such a bad stroke that half of her was completely paralyzed, and she learned to drive. She had to wrap like a block around her. For some reason, had to wrap a block around one of the pedals in her car. I mean, it was very, very, very difficult for her to go through. Luckily, since I was so young, I adapted really well. I became her translator, and I was really good at that. But as a result of that, my mom and dad weren't able to make it work. She ended up living with her mother, and my dad left her. He really tried to make things work with her, but it just wouldn't work. They wanted different things. She pretty much wanted to be pampered, and she regretted that later in life, and pretty much spent the rest of her life pining over my dad, over having lost him, and he drank his pain away. So I would go to Southern California, and my mom would be crying all summer long while I was there visiting her, depressed, crying, so upset. And then I'd go back to Washington, and there would be my dad staring into the fire, drinking all the time, totally detached. There were occasions, of course, where we had this wonderful connection. My dad and I had a very special relationship, but there was a lot of depression between these two, and I was. That was a big part of my life, pretty much all my life. So, let's see, I don't remember my childhood because I was molested and I shut it out. I didn't remember being molested, or even when I started having these little flashbacks and memories that I didn't quite understand. I was in my 30s, and it was kind of trippy to go, what in the world, like, where did that memory come from, and why is it coming up now? And I don't remember that happening. So that's kind of how those types of things can come up for you if you were traumatized when you were younger. So just to let you know, that might happen at some point for you. But okay, so the next thing is I was like the Pied Piper. I mean, I pretty much turned to animals at that time, and I had animals follow me all around the neighborhood when I was little. I joined 4-H from the age of 8 to 18. I had a horse at that time that I worked with. I had rabbits. I had like every animal you can imagine. So I just kind of climbed into animal world, and that's where I was most comfortable, and that was kind of my escape away from all these, like from my brother who kind of bullied me growing up, and from my dad who was just totally detached or, grumpy or that type of thing. You know how alcoholics can be. So I worked as a wrangler from the age of 8 to about 22. Then I moved to Southern California to work at an equestrian center and a cutting and roping facility after that. I was pretty much bullied by everybody and anyone in my whole life, starting from elementary school, my first day of school, all the way up through high school. Well, not so much high school, but definitely junior high school, and then into even more recent years. In my 20s, I joined a non-denominational Christian church. I was so frightened when I left, I ended up in the mental hospital with PTSD. A guy I ran off with spent all our money forcing us to live on the streets of Vegas without a penny to our name, and we had to survive any way that we could. Even after that happened, I still married him. I didn't know that he had an excuse for the money being gone. I didn't know at the time he had gambled it away. So I went ahead and married him, and he wouldn't have sex with me because I was too pure, in quotes, while he solicited prostitutes. Of course, I left him. I started to build a professional career in sales and marketing alongside my working with animals. Then I married my second husband. The first one should have been an annulment, but I didn't really know about annulment back then, and I was so hooked on him that you probably couldn't convince me to do it anyway. So my second husband I was with for almost 10 years. He also wouldn't have sex with me, but every 3 months or so. He watched NASCAR all the time and bought me a new pet every time I talked about leaving. We had 3 German Shepherds, a Maltese, and 5 cats, which really says something, right? I was traumatized by having to leave most of them behind, only for them to die, leave, or go to a new home. I felt awful. In fact, for many, many years, I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning crying over the whole experience and what happened as a result of that divorce. I knew I had to leave. I knew it was going to be hell to go, but it was really a tough thing to get over once I did. We lived in a haunted house where I started to develop my intuition. That's where it all started. That's where I met Kevin, is taking a class on how to talk to your spirit guides. I started working in the senior living industry around that time, and I actually coined the phrase CRD, which is a Community Relations Director, a title that's now commonly used in the industry, so that was kind of cool. I also started a business as an animal communicator on the side about that time. After that divorce, I became a dating maniac. I dated several people at the same time sometimes. I dated millionaires and billionaires who flew me over to the West Coast for dates and put me up in 5-star hotels. I was even with a married man for 3 years, a man who was my boss. I was going to write a book on what I learned from dating 100 men. At the tail end of this time, I stumbled into enlightenment by reading A New Earth. The experience lasted for 6 months. I went through a deep depression when I left the married man, fled to Montana to get away from him, and started over, no longer enlightened and desperate to obtain it again. It was miserable being human again in comparison. I spent time studying enlightenment, non-duality, the law of attraction, and went through training in Qigong energy healing, 3 levels of Qigong. I just wanted to be happy again any way that I could. I continued to date a lot in Montana, and I fell in love with a guy who had a girlfriend, but he was convinced I was his true love. After several months, he finally broke things off with her, but I had to give up on him and committed to another. I had given up on him and committed to another guy. I found out later he had become best friends with my own male best friend at the time, although none of us had ever put the 2 and 2 together. They had been hanging out in bars, and he was always crying over a girl named Amy who broke his heart, and he would agonize over not telling me how much he loved me. Later, he drove his car into a tree and died coming home from one of those nights out drinking. So the other guy I committed to, I was with for nearly 4 years. When the guy I loved died, he became a spirit guide and unfortunately had to watch while I was severely mistreated by this other guy. I began a life coaching business online called Shed for Bread while continuing both the community relations director job and my animal business. I also continued doing those areas of study I mentioned prior. I was desperate to have enlightenment back. I practiced Byron Katie's work every day to discover my power, freedom, and ultimately have the strength to free myself up from him. And by the way, he really made up for the whole sex thing with the other 2. We had sex every day, if not like 3 times a day. So that was, I mean, you can imagine all those years of me wanting that kind of connection with somebody. Then we finally have something really incredible that way. And I left it. So ultimately, once I left him and found out the other guy had died, I talked to a psychic who helped me reconcile with the guy who died and told me he was on a mission now to help me find true love. He said I would find my true love in Boulder. Okay, we're almost done. I left for Boulder after my synchronistic events steered me there. Some synchronistic events had steered me there. I am not used to reading things like this, so after several months working at a hardware store, I began working at the Lighthouse Bookstore in Boulder, where I now do readings Thursday through Saturdays. I do readings remotely all over the world now when I'm not at the Lighthouse doing readings. So I'm just a reading maniac. Anyway, I'm going to list those links below, or at least tell you which episodes go into more detail about all those things if you want. But one thing that might be interesting to you is I have no regrets on any of this. I truly am grateful for every one of those experiences. And it's not just that they molded and shaped me into who I am, but it's like my perspective on life changed. I slowly evolved and was able to see that everything really does happen for a reason. It all is a gift if you can just see it in that light. It will really empower you rather than disempower you. And the reason, it's like I shared all these kind of traumatic events that have happened to me throughout my whole life. Some of them would be like, that doesn't compare to me, and the others would be like, holy cow, I don't know what I would have done if I would have gone through all of that. You can be anywhere on that scale, but I will tell you one thing. There is nothing unique about my story. There's nothing special about my story. Every single one of us have the same feelings. We all feel sorrow. We all feel guilt. We've all been up 2 or 3 in the morning feeling awful about something that we did, whether it was our fault or not. We've all tortured ourselves. Some of us have even had epiphanies and Satori moments where we've kind of gotten a feel of what it is like to be completely free of the ego, just to be tormented by the fact that you're not there anymore. We've all been raped, and we've all been molested, and we've all been, in some way, shape, or form, and there really are no new thoughts that are unique to anybody. So it's kind of cool to think we're all in the same boat, and it's all about the way you look at your thoughts and how capable can you become at mastering your emotions. That is where your power lies. That is where your freedom lies. And that's where you free yourself up to be able to see the truth of who you truly are. Your true authentic self, the one beyond the ego, beyond the personality, beyond the body. If you can get to that place where you truly know who you are, you can wake up to that reality. And once you're there, it's pretty smooth sailing. You can manifest very easily, very quickly. And you and your partner, your twin flame, will both feel this incredible liberation. And I know that term of enlightenment is thrown around a lot. So in another episode, I'm going to go through and explain to you what my experience of enlightenment was, although I have already done another episode on that. Some other questions have come up with some other people in the meantime. And so I'd like to really go through some of those things to just kind of clarify what that means. And people also throw out that word awakening. When you're awakened. I don't know what they're meaning by that. I really don't. Is that the moment where your twin realizes that they are your twin flame? Perhaps. Does it mean they're enlightened? Probably not, because it's a very rare experience. Not very many people actually get to feel what true enlightenment is. I think I read in a report somewhere that it only happens to about 3% of the population. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I think I'm going to end it here. It's about 51 minutes in or so, and I hope you got something out of it. And, somebody else had asked in the Twin Flame Forum whether it's okay to call me and ask me questions about other things other than twin flames. And whoever that was, I forget who that was. I think it might have been Suzanne even. But you and I are on the same page. You read my mind, because I was going to tell you guys you can call about anything. There's so much that I can do for you, and I do it for free on Sunday night, so you may as well take advantage. I can, all the things it said in the intro pretty much. If you ask me to, I was talking to these people. I had them on speakerphone, and there were 3 people who had ordered an hour reading, so I had 20 minutes each with each of them, and they were all kind of listening in on with each other, and they were all like, "Ooh, have her do the energy scan. It's so cool." So that's always a really fun one to do. Even if you don't know, if you don't have something specific you want to ask about, you can just be like, "Amy, just read me." And you can always use a fake name. You don't have to use your real name if you're afraid of that. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support so much. I will keep the show going, I did have a moment where I questioned whether this is where the road ends. But obviously that dream was delivered to me for a reason, to give me the incentive to go on. Obviously, this is my path. And even though it's a little uncomfortable kind of stepping into this role and doing it all myself, I really do feel excited about it. And I asked myself at one point, Amy, what would you say to somebody right now who's just gone through this? Because I was grieving for a moment. I was really sad to think not to do this with him anymore. I was looking forward to it every week, hearing his voice. I mean, there's so much that I really love about him. And so it was really hard for a moment, and I was tempted to kind of, fall down. My old me would have, oh gosh, I would have pretty much fallen apart, and I probably would have felt so discouraged that I probably would have quit everything. But this time I didn't do that. I honored the whole process. I appreciated him, and I started to make that list I tell you guys to do all the time. And I said, thank you, God, that Kevin's life has taken him on another path. So I'm left to do this alone, and this is why it is. These are the benefits and advantages as to why that's a really good thing. And I started listing those things, and oh my gosh, I just was like, wow. I didn't even know that this had so much potential to be even better even. And it's like I got really creative, and I started having these incredible ideas, and then I started getting even more downloads, and it was kind of like I felt everybody on the other side getting so excited, like, oh my gosh, and this, and then this, and then this. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, how beautiful is this? It's just a growth spurt. And he made me feel safe building that foundation. As some of you know, he had to kind of talk me into doing this. So thank you, Kevin. And then we built this foundation. And so this is just the next phase. And I hope you guys are cool with that. Hope you still enjoy the show, although it's going to be pretty different without his humorous comments and his he had a lot of knowledge that he would share with us, and I'm gonna miss that as well, because you guys know about my memory and whatnot. But the show will go on, and I'm committed to you guys, and I will be here to answer your questions. Please call in, or I will continue to talk to myself like this. Anyway, share this with your friends. Follow me if you're not already following me on Podbean. And thank you again so much. You guys are beautiful. And I was going to prepare a quote to, I've done Fears Real for a while. And now that the show is kind of taking a new turn, I was thinking to come up with a quote. Haven't done that yet. Hasn't popped in my head. But as you guys know full well, I'm sure it will appear to me in a dream or somewhere. So when that happens, I will share that with you. But for now, I'm just going to close out and thank you guys so much. And, I just love that we're on this path together, that we can share our experiences with one another, that we can learn and grow with each other. And I'm just honored to be in this position to be able to help you guys. So thank you so much for your support. And I love you. And have yourselves a beautiful day or evening wherever you're at. And feel free to call me anytime or visit my website, amysatori.com. And you can always order a private reading that will obviously be custom to you and would probably be like a half an hour or an hour. So it would really be kind of a thorough reading for you. So anyway, yes, again, how many times have I said goodbye? This is like my third time. So anyway, have yourselves a great night, and see you next time on the Satori Show.